Hi guys, I am super late. I apologize, but I figured being late was better than taking off 2 months again. So hopefully you guys forgive me. It is Wednesday. Hopefully you are all well and healthy, staying warm and adjusting with the kids at home and making the best of the homeschooling / online learning. Again, thank you guys for popping in. I am going to do my normal, which is going over the real estate updates. Hi Scotty, how are you? As well as answering your guys' questions. And also then doing some happy news. Okay, so feel free to write some questions if you want in the text there. Otherwise, I will just go off of some that have come in during the week. Okay, so we will start with the first question. Hi Margie, how are you? I will start with the first question. Comes from Carrie in Innisfil. Okay, so Carrie in Innisfil says, I know you have short-term rentals in multiple places, and I understand some are in Innisfil. I also have some there as well, and was wondering if you know if they did pass everything. So what she means everything is they're doing some short-term rental, what they kind of want to limit and so forth. She's just saying, would we be grandfathered in? So thank you, Carrie, for asking. I can't see if that's Janice or not, but thank you for popping in. So thank you, Carrie, for asking. So unfortunately, if they do put that rule in, then we will not be grandfathered in. And I won't go through everything that's in that because obviously it's not official yet. If it is official, then I will go through all of it with you guys. But basically, it's just limiting short-term rentals. If you're a water short-term rental as opposed to a non-waterfront short-term rental, how many days you can rent it out a year, how many people can stay there and so forth, an extra basically tax to it and a percentage that you have to pay Innisfil, and kind of just like some other places where they're like, hey, it's $1,000 a year to be a part of this, or $2,000, etc. And they have different rules again depending if you're a waterfront or not. And again, I apologize for being late, guys, but thank you, Carrie, for asking. And okay, so again, I'm going to go through a bunch of happy stuff. I'm going to go through your guys' questions and then also the real estate updates, okay? I can't really see who that is. I think one is Jacqueline and one is Samantha, but hard to see. Okay, so one nurse took on more than just taking after her client's health as something that she wanted to do on her shift. So there was a lady and her client was hospitalized for pneumonia. And because he had no family or friends nearby, his dog ended up going into a shelter. And so he was telling his nurse that his dog named Boomer, which was 12 years old and he had had since he was a puppy, was in a shelter, and he just really, wanted to see him and what have you, but there was no dogs in the hospital and so forth. So she said she would take his dog until he was released from the hospital, which was super cute. And I don't know if she snuck him in there, but I did see a picture of him with the dog, so maybe she did, I don't know. So I just thought that was cute because obviously I like kindness. The next question comes from Brenda in Collingwood. Again, if you guys want to ask questions in here, you can. Otherwise, I will just answer some that have come in throughout the week. So Brenda from Collingwood said, I feel bad for my grandkids and don't even know if they will be able to afford a trailer, let alone a house, when they're adults. Is there any decline in sight? Thank you, Brenda, for asking. I don't obviously know the age of your grandkids, but I'm going to guess they would be in the real estate market in 20 or 25 years, assuming that they are younger. Obviously, that is a super large question and hard to know because currently right now, so let's just say 400,000 on average, people are coming from other countries to Canada, whether it's 400 or 415, etc. But even during COVID with borders closed, as you know, the markets have skyrocketed. So that was without people, immigrants and so forth coming and foreigners, etc. So the market's still gone up. So we can't say just that. Also, I have no idea what the interest rate's going to do. I also don't know who's going to be the prime minister, etc. So I don't know if they're going to put into certain, this implementation or that or what have you. So it's really a broad question and hard to answer. It obviously looks like it's just going to continue to go up at whether it's like this or like this or like this. I don't know. Obviously, we have no inventory. But because I have no idea what the interest rates will be doing 20 or 25 years from now, or who will be prime minister, etc., and how many people will be coming to Canada, I can't really fully answer that question. But currently right now, it's definitely going up and will continue. So I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you, but hopefully that helps you a little bit. And thank you for asking and tuning in. So the next thing is a music store in Colorado. Again, before I get to real estate, sorry, last week I had a messy bun and so forth. And this week I have no eyebrows drawn on and still in a sweatshirt. It's COVID life, so it's different. So there's basically a music store in Colorado, and there was this young teenager that used to go in all the time, and he had, I don't want to say the syndrome wrong, Williams syndrome. So it's not Down syndrome, but they do have some, things with their intellect, and they have some facial things that you can recognize with this syndrome, and they often have issues with their heart. And anyways, this boy used to go into this music store, and there was a fellow in there, and he saw him in the music store, and the little boy, or teenager, I guess not little, he used to always ask if he could try all of the guitars, and obviously not buy any, but just try them all. So this man, when the teenager left, he asked if he could buy him the guitar, and they could give it to him anonymously the next time he came in. So that's what they did, and he did. Unfortunately, the boy didn't come back for 8 months. It turned out his family had moved to Texas. So when he was back visiting family, he went into his favorite music store, found out that he had been gifted a free guitar, and they posted some pictures. They asked him some questions like his favorite band and so forth. And when he wrote his favorite band, I guess somehow somebody told the band members, or they saw it, or what have you. So 2 of the band members ended up giving him big gifts as well. So that was just super cute, because obviously I like kindness and paying it forward. So I liked that story. And then let's see, we have a question from Claire in Oro. So Claire in Oro, thank you for emailing in. She said, I currently am looking at investing in Barrie and Collingwood. If you could only buy in one location, which would it be and why? Thank you, Claire, for asking. So to be honest, I know Barrie very well and inside and out, but I don't know Collingwood as well. Although we've had tons of clients buy there and we've sold homes there, we don't do it as often. So let's just say I showed a person there today, I would show them all the actives and solds and, the value of that home, etc. But Collingwood as a whole, I don't know, like on average, how much they go up a year, because it's out of Simcoe County. Whereas Simcoe County, I can tell you very easily. So I would just ask a realtor up there, to give you all the stats and stuff, and then you could compare it against Barrie just so you could see which makes more sense investment-wise for you. So I'm sorry that I don't have a better answer for you. If you said like Innisfil and Oro, or you said, Barrie and Springwater, etc., I could answer you better, but I can't, unfortunately, for Collingwood. But I'm sure a realtor up there could give you the stats, and then I could give you the stats for Barrie, and then you could compare. So thank you for asking. And then there's one last thing before real estate, which is a hockey fan that saved somebody's life. So there was a young lady at a Vancouver Canucks game, and the fellow that she pointed out, basically he has no idea how she saw it, because he always was wearing a coat, and he'd always have like headphones, but usually like around his neck. And basically a lady, again a fan in the stands, wrote on her phone, like texted in, and said, I think the mole on the back of your neck is cancerous, please check with your doctor, and held it up to the glass and tapped on the glass, and the guy looked at it and read it. Turns out it was cancerous. He did get it removed. And somehow, I don't know, by knowing her seat number or how it all worked, but they invited her back for another game. Once that had all happened, his doctor had said if it had gone undetected for 4 or 5 years, he would not be around today and would have passed away. So he ended up giving this girl $10,000, and turns out between when she had told him and when that had happened, she had got accepted to medical school. So the $10,000, $10,000 would go a little bit. I don't know how much med school costs nowadays, but a little bit towards that. So I thought that was lovely. So now we are going to do real estate, okay? And I thank you again. Hi, Matt. How are you? Hi, Carrie. I can't see everybody in there. Okay. So now we're going to do real estate. We're going to start with rando facts first. If you guys, again, have questions, feel free to write it in the chat. Otherwise, I will just blabber myself away. So we're going to start, again, like I said, with random facts for real estate. So a lot of people ask me about foreign buyers and like, is it fair that they're, coming in with all this money, not necessarily from China, but a lot of them are from China. So 1 out of 10 newer condos are owned by a foreign investor. And that means they were built in 2016 or earlier, okay? And this, however, though, is in BC, not in Ontario. I'll give you Ontario's after. But the thing about when they did that was they said that not all of these condos are owned by people. They could be owned by a corporation or a trust. And when they're owned by a trust, it's usually somebody that's trying to get away from foreign buyers tax. Okay, so it's like a little loophole that they're trying to do. I'm obviously not a foreign buyer, so I've never tried to figure out that loophole, but supposedly there's something there. And then 6.5% of the not new condos, so built before 2016, are owned by foreign investors. Okay, so 1 out of 10 of the newer ones, so they obviously like the newer better, and 6.5 out of the not new ones. And again, that is in BC. And so BC and Ontario have the most foreign buyers in it. I will obviously do local statistics as well, but I like to do a wide variety of things when I do this. And I know I still have my tree up. I'm going to take it down this weekend, so don't bug me about my tree. Okay, and whether it's COVID related or not, I don't know, but there's actually less foreign buyers that owned in 2021 or that bought in 2021 in BC and Ontario than 2020 and 2019, 2018, etc. It was down. So what was I going to say? So they currently, this is homes, not condos, okay? So they currently own 9% of the homes in BC, and that was down from 10.5 from the year prior. And then if you look in Ontario, the condos that are built since 2016, so newer, they own 13.4% of those. And then the older ones, they own, before I say that, in 2020, they owned 15.4, okay? So they went from 15.4 ownership of newer condos down to 13.4, which is not that big of a gap. Basically, they own 1 out of 7 as opposed to 1 out of 8. And another place that they've actually been buying a lot is Nova Scotia, which I wouldn't have thought of, but they own 5.6% of the homes there and 7.4% of the condos. Okay, that's my randomness on that. Hi Greg, how are you? Hi Sherry. Thank you guys for popping in. So again, I just do lots of random stuff. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will blab away. So something that they don't have in Ontario, but the reason I'm mentioning it is because a lot of things BC tries first and then Ontario tries. So basically they announced this thing. So it's homeowner grant. Okay, so they're giving money towards people's property taxes. And it used to, at first when they put it out, it used to just be for people with lower income, etc. But now they're doing it all the way up to $2 million homes. So if you own a $2 million home, you still get this grant towards your property tax. And if you owned a $2 million home, you get $770 towards your property tax. A lot of people don't know, but BC actually has really low property tax. So Vancouver, for example, if you had a $1 million mortgage, your property tax on average is just going to be above $2,900. Whereas if you lived in, I was forgetting if it was Austin, Texas or Dallas, but Austin, Texas, if you had only $150,000 mortgage, so on $1 million, $150,000 mortgage, your average property tax is over $3,400, okay? So they already have super low property taxes, plus they're giving people $770 or whatever, depending on what your property value is, back to the people. So I don't know if they're ever going to do that in Ontario, but I was just saying because often they do stuff there first, just like their foreign buyer's tax or what have you. So that was why I was mentioning that. So besides first-time buyers having a hard time getting in this market, the rate that they're making per month and per week has gone up. So they're now averaging $1,276 a week, which is 3.5% higher than last year at the same time. Except the problem with that is that the inflation has gone up 4.7% for living. So their rate, their wage has gone up 3.5, but the price to live has gone up 4.7. So they're already having to cut back because they're, yes, they're making more, but it costs more to live. So they're trying to cut back, but plus then they're trying to get into the real estate market, which is obviously soaring. So there is a lot stacked against them. And again, I just say randomness in here. So thank you guys for tuning in. And again, random. Did you know that less than 9% of Canadians have a $1 million or more mortgage, and majority of those are obviously around an hour to an hour and a half range of Vancouver or Toronto. And so in the little blurb at the beginning of this live, I said something about millennials and trying to basically slow the market. So there's this non-profit organization in BC, and it's called Generation Squeeze. And they put out this big report. The main thing in it, what they want to do is they want people that have homes over $1 million to have to pay an extra tax, because now this tax doesn't go to them or anything or help them buy, but they think if they have this extra tax, then the prices won't jump up as high because people won't want to move as much and so forth because they have this extra tax. So if, for example, that happened and you had a $2 million home, for example, you would pay an extra $3,500 a year on top of your regular property tax. Again, if that happened, and again, I'm just saying BC because often what happens in BC gets tested first and then we do it. Theirs hasn't even been tested yet, but it was something that was put out. And so I will let you guys know if it does officially come into play. So as you guys know, we don't have a lot of inventory. And so question is, are they building fast enough? So builds are actually up, okay? We know they're not building fast enough, but at least the amount of new builds are up. So there's 11.2 billion with a B, not million, of building permits filed, which is up 6.8% from the month before. So obviously there is a lot in the pipeline that's coming up for new builds. But a lot of people worry that they're putting too much money into new builds and not enough money into businesses, because as we know, tons of businesses have gone under during COVID, are struggling during COVID and not around, etc. So people are worried about, okay, all these houses, but where are all these people going to work to pay all of these mortgages? Now that 11.2 billion counted residential as well as commercial. So if we just looked at residential for that, it's 7.8 billion of that 11.2 billion, and that is up over 12% over last month. So it's actually almost 50%, just shy of 50% more than before COVID that were in the pipeline for new builds. Okay, so there are more coming, which is great, but we, long before COVID, had no inventory as well. So yes, it's getting better, but we were still lacking on inventory before COVID, okay? Okay, so even though residential permits are up, obviously having residential permits, you should have schools, libraries, shopping, etc., hospitals, but the non-residential permits are down. So they were 3.4 billion, which is down 2.9 over last month. So where are, the schools and so forth going to go for all these properties? So that is my thing on the new builds, just in case, because again, a lot of people ask me the same questions. So I just like to cover some more common ones than the uncommon ones. But feel free to answer or ask any questions if you guys have them, okay? Did you know that less than a third of Canadians have a mortgage? I actually did not know that. I thought it would have been maybe the other way around, that 2/3 do have mortgages, but less than a third have mortgages. So 29.63% of Canadians, to be exact, have mortgages. But there was a recent survey and it said that over 50% of Canadians were worried about mortgage rates going up, which doesn't make sense when over 70% of Canadians don't even have a mortgage. So that doesn't make sense. So I don't know if that's like clickbait or whatever, how news people, bad news makes the news and happy news doesn't tend to. So I don't know if it was about that and that's what just got more ratings or whatever, or why they said that. And also, so besides them saying that over 50% of people are worried about rates going up in 2022, so there were uninsured mortgages, which are mortgages over 20%. Hi, Jessica. How are you? I can't see everybody's bubble there, but thank you for popping in. So, which are mortgages over 20%. 58% of people picked variable rates in 2021. So that was almost double what they picked in 2020. So obviously people can't be that worried about rates going up, or they would have locked in obviously to fixed mortgages. So that again also doesn't make sense. And if you're a first-time buyer and you are hoping that the rates going up will, level out the market or bring it down a bit or what have you, unfortunately, there is still no inventory. So I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but that is not in your future right now. So again, yes, they said that over 50% were worried about rates, but because there's already been the stress tests, for example, so I won't go into all the details of that, but just as a Coles Notes version, this had people approved at 2% higher than their actual rate they were paying. And the interest rate's only supposed to go up around 0.7. So if it goes up 2%, they've already been approved with their debt to service ratio at 2% higher, let alone 0.7. So that won't affect them. And then there's a bunch of people that, again, don't have mortgages, so that doesn't affect them. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, that's all I was going to say. I think there was one other thing, but that's all I'm saying right there. So there. And so although we've had low interest rates for a really long time, like I don't remember, but I was a kid in 91, for example, those crazy high interest rates, the super, super low ones have actually just been in the past 2 years. So only like a fifth of Canadians actually have those super low rates. So that's another reason that people shouldn't be worried about the rates going up, because a lot of them are already not paying the super cheap rates and are already paying the higher rates anyways, and they're locked in at that. So that's another reason that more than 50% being worried does not make sense, and nor will it be like a crazy drop or anything like that in the fall. And then, like I said, the 70% more not even having a mortgage. Okay, so a lot of it is just made, to scare people, etc. But since the average person in Canada, their house went up over 150,000 last year, even if their rate did go up a little bit, it's not, going to be the end of the world for them, okay? And then for older people, so people over 65, and sorry if that offends people and you say you're not old till you're 80 or 90 or 100 or whatever, but I'm just saying that in general. So they actually took on more mortgages and refinances in 2021 than they did in 2020 or 2019 or 2018, etc. Why that is, I don't know. Maybe they wanted to live it up more. I am not sure. So last year, people under 35, they held 17% of all mortgages in Canada. People 35 to 44 held 26% of mortgages. People 45 to 54 held 25% of mortgages. People 55 to 64 held 20% of mortgages. Sorry for all these numbers. And people 65 and over held 12%. And normally they've been teetering around like the 8 to 9.5% of how many mortgages, or how much of the mortgage, full picture they've held. And again, now they're holding 12%. Okay, so they have more mortgages now for some reason. Okay, more random real estate facts for you guys. And again, thanks for tuning in. So 77% of people say they value their home now more than they did before COVID. 72% of first-time buyers in 2021 knew about the 5%, basically the first-time buyers incentive that they were doing, but it doesn't mean that all 72% used it. And 35% of people that bought in 2021 paid less than they were approved for, because a lot of people say they're approved for 800, they buy something as 800, but there were a fair amount that didn't go to the top. Some people, want to make sure in case my car breaks or in case one of us loses our job or what have you, that they're safer and not house poor, as some people call it. And then there was a survey that said the top 3 reasons why people bought in 2021. So the main reason was for a safe investment. The second reason was for stability, which I feel like safe investment and stability are pretty similar. And the third reason was because of low interest rates. Okay, so that was why people said in 2021. Hi, Claire. Thank you for jumping on. And hi, Romeo. Okay, so what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, so 27 out of 30 of the Canadian markets in 2021 were driven mainly by the lack of inventory and the high increase of buyers. So way too many buyers and no inventory. And then if we look just at Simcoe County, obviously myself being in Simcoe County. So if we look at Simcoe County in the last 7 days, there were 84 new listings. There were 5 deals that fell apart, so that means that somebody didn't bring in their deposit check, or they didn't get financing, or they didn't like the inspection, etc. There were 24 homes that sold conditionally, and there were 96 that sold firm, and 134 people got the keys to the home. So that means they bought their home in November of last year, September, October, etc., but they got their keys in the last 7 days. And so what I want to, show specifically is the 24 sold conditionally and 96 sold firm. So 120 total either were completely sold firm or sold conditionally in the last week in Simcoe County, but yet there was only 84 new listings. So obviously that's a boatload of other homes that had to go, that still got sold, but they're going into prior inventory, right? So that's again our lack of inventory that we have had for so long. And an example of it, so in Simcoe in the last 24 hours, there has been 29 new listings. There has been 3 that already conditionally sold and 17 sold firm. So that's 20 out of the 29. So yes, there's still some extra. However, it's only been 24 hours. And we don't have to report our sales for 2 days. So they might not be reported for 2 days. Maybe people haven't dropped the deposit checks yet, etc. But again, we're still on a severe lack of inventory. And then if I just do Barrie in the last 7 days, there has been 26 new listings. 1 deal fell apart. There were 6 conditional and 26 that sold firm. So therefore 32 altogether either sold firm or were conditionally sold, but yet there was only 26 new listings. So obviously there was extra homes that had to go back into the old inventory, and 48 people got their keys, which on a Tuesday or Wednesday is not the norm. However, all of our trailers are out today, so I do believe it. So that makes sense. We, just on a side note, when I say that about trailers, if you don't know, our clients get to use our trailers for free when they move, as well as boxes and tape. Okay, so the next question comes from Jay in Barrie. So Jay in Barrie said, I heard someone say that interest rates might go up early and not in the fall. Have you heard this? Thank you, Jay, for asking. So I did see an article on that. It said maybe April, maybe March. However, that is literally the only thing I've ever seen on that. I've never seen anything else on it, so I'm not sure how factual that is, how true that is. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball into it, and I'm not sure, but maybe that's the same one that the person that was talking to you about saw. So I did see that as well, but if you look up things about the fall, about the interest rates going up, and let's just say there's hundreds of articles on it, I've literally only seen one on the one that says maybe March or April, so I am not positive, but maybe next week there'll be more info on it. I don't know, because it was one, I think, 3 or so days ago. So thank you for asking. Okay, speaking of asking, if you don't ask, you never know. So there was a couple, and they were in Virginia, and they were stuck on the highway for 29 hours due to snow, and I don't know Virginia, but I guess they weren't ready for all the snow, or maybe there was accidents or something like that, I don't know. And basically, again, they were there for 29 hours and getting hungry, and they noticed there was like a bakery truck also stuck with them. There was like over 50 cars, and so they Googled the address, the customer service of the bakery truck, and they called in and said, hey, this is a scenario, do you think we could get some bread? And 20 minutes later, the owner called them and said, absolutely. Can you also help give it to all the other vehicles? So that's what they did. That's why I said, if you don't ask, you don't know. So they ended up giving it out to everybody. And there was lots of elderly people, people with children, etc. So they were happy to have some buns and bread, etc. I don't know what all was on there, croissants and so forth. So I like that they were sharing it around to everybody, making their probably not so great day a bit better. The next question comes from Dominic in Aurelia. So Dominic in Aurelia said, as a first-time buyer, I feel there's so much I don't know. What do you find first-time buyers' biggest setback is in this market? Thank you, Dominic, for asking. So I would probably just say, their lack of knowledge. Depending on their realtor, they may be steered in the right direction. Hopefully they are represented well. So let's just say a first-time buyer, offers on a house and it's listed for $600,000. They might want to offer $550,000, and they're like, the flooring needs to be redone. It's got old windows. It's this, that, the other, and then they find out it sells for $750,000 or $775,000, and then they're like, oh, okay, and they reassess and see if they can get approved for more. So let's just say now they're approved for more, and now there's another home that's listed for $600,000. And they offer $775,000 because they're like, okay, now I know the game. The only problem is with that is they still need to be showed the comparables. They still need to do their research, whether they're doing it on their own or, like I said, they have a realtor helping them out and protecting them. Because let's just say the house doesn't appraise at $775,000. So either the bank is going to notice it or the underwriter is going to notice it, which is a step up from the bank. So if the bank says, hey, no, we think it's only worth $600,000 and you just bought it for $775,000 firm, you now have to, as a first-time buyer, come up with that extra $175,000 on top of your deposit and on top of your land transfer tax, which not a lot of buyers know. And then they're like, oh my God, I just bought this house firm. What what I didn't know. I just thought the bank would give me the money for the 775, etc., because I was approved for 775. They're not going to give you the house or the money for 775 unless they see the value as that. So just make sure you really have done your homework, or your realtor has, so you know the actual value of the home, because obviously that is a huge slap in the face and sometimes can be bad. You might have to back out of the deal. Then, you know, they could sue you, the realtor, the brokerage could sue you, etc., and it's a big cluster mess. So I would say that is the main thing. And then also another thing is them thinking they'll just save. So let's just say they have 30,000 in the bank. They're like, we're going to save another 30 by next year. Unfortunately, the homes are going up more than 30,000 a year. Not unfortunately to the people that already own them, but the people trying to get in. So they save that extra 30,000, but the home's gone up way more than that. So I would just say just to get into the market as quick as somebody can, because the house will save faster than you can. Okay, thank you for asking that question, Dominic. Okay, so dogs are obviously super amazing. I love dogs. So on the highway between, where was it, New Hampshire and Vermont, police kept getting calls, and a couple of shelters were getting calls that there was a German Shepherd on the road. And basically the police and I don't know if it was the shelters or the dog controller, whatever you want to call it, kept coming to the scene, and they were trying to get the dog, but the dog kept, you know, running away when they would get close. But they would try and like go towards the dog, and the dog eventually led them to a part of the guardrail that was all broken. And then they saw down below that there was actually a truck. So the dog had been in the truck with its owner and its owner's friend, and they had rolled a couple of times. Both of the men were ejected from the truck, assuming the dog was as well. And both of the men were unconscious and had hypothermia when paramedics got there. And they said that if they had stayed out over the night, they wouldn't have made it. So this dog saved the owner's life. So I like that, because yay, they're alive, and yay, cute dogs. The next question comes from Jordan and Claire in Barrie. Jordan and Claire in Barrie said, this is not really a real estate question, so I apologize ahead of time, but we recently stayed at one of your Airbnbs, and the decorating is so beautiful. Oh, thanks. One, where do you buy most of your things? And two, what do you think influences most of your style? Thank you, Jordan and Claire, for asking. Locally, I just buy it at like StructTube and HomeSense, etc. The odd time I've done Urban Barn, but they're a bit more expensive. So I tend to go in there. The odd time I go in Ashley Furniture or in Bradford Greenhouse if I can't find what I need elsewhere. Those aren't my go-to places. And, you know, for, not to say for bigger things, but sometimes for more unique things when I'm away, sometimes I've found things. So I've had a shipping container shipped before from Indonesia. I was in Mexico in the fall-ish beginning of winter of last year and brought a bunch of things back from there. So oftentimes I find stuff when I'm away that I really like, and it's more unique and not as known, like that's from StructTube or what have you. So that's what I do. So thank you for asking. And on a side note, I'm doing a line, so it's going to be out this year. And just because a lot of people do ask me where I get everything from, so it's going to be all my stuff. And there's going to be two parts of it. One is going to be more of like classic and kind of like where I live, more neutral colors, etc. And the other part is going to be all bold and crazy, like some of my Airbnbs. So I don't know which one you stayed at, but you can, if you do the more neutral, there'll be stuff for you. And if you do the crazy side, there's also stuff for you. But thank you for asking. Okay. So the next thing is we did our 5 giveaways at Christmas, where we went and knocked on people's doors and surprised them with all of the presents that they had asked for and dinners and so forth. But there was this foundation, and they did something but much larger than we did. So I just thought that was great. So there's this foundation, and it's called Tunnel of Towers. And what they do is they pay people's mortgage who were first responders but have died in their job. Okay. So this year they paid 5 people's mortgages off at Christmas. There was a 41-year-old, and he was a firefighter who passed away while working. He was there for 17 years, and he had 4 children. There was a 40-year-old police officer, and he was hit by a driver that fled the scene, and he had 3 children. There was another 40-year-old that was killed from gunshot wounds in a high-speed chase that had 4 children. Then there was another police officer, 44 years old, 6 children, was hit at a traffic stop. And There was a 47-year-old firefighter. He had one child. He didn't die on the job. He had brain cancer. But those were the 5 winners. So whether somebody's paying off somebody's mortgage or doing like we did, or just, you know, a smile or helping hand to somebody or listening ear or what have you, obviously I like kindness and spreading as much as that as humanly possible. So that's why I like that. Thank you guys for popping in. Have a superb night, a great remainder to your week, and stay true to yourself. If I could speak properly, but stay true to yourself. Have a great one. Take care.